This is nuts. This is yeah, and you're right in the middle of this. What the is going on, dude? This is insane.
Have you ever gone out to these sort of things before?
Never. I've never protested in my life. My brother's here. He does it all the time. I've never. Dude, like I said, I'm far enough away, but close enough, and I'm sitting in my cushy house and look at get mad, and my daughter was part of it. We keep going down to Whipple every night now, and we're protesting down there. My wife is here, probably way back there, because she doesn't want to be part of the tear gas.
I think
they're just trying to scare people, and but why shoot people? You know what really pisses me off is the fact that they detain people, cuff them, and then still beat the out of them.
In the break, we talked about how much time we spent in Minnesota. I mean, these are some of the nicest people that I've met in traveling for politics and work my whole life. But when a line has been crossed, that is exactly what it sounds like. Like, what the F is happening?
Yeah, the representative is maybe a little bit more representative of Minnesota than that guy.
Right.
Nice, but I love that guy. I was doom scrolling last night like everybody else. So I couldn't go to sleep and started watching this video. And I was like, find me this person.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's representative of how a lot of people feel across the country, even in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are not necessarily protesters or types, but they're like, this is crazy what's happening. That protest last night, and we don't know exactly what happened at this point with the Venezuelan that they shot, but they've lied about everything. They've lied about everything to date. And if you remember the first story Kristi Noem told after Renee Good was killed, she was like, the agents were stuck in ice and a domestic terrorist.
Snowbank. It was a snowbank.
Stuck in a snowbank and a domestic terrorist came after them.
Yeah.
It's like, it was totally disconnected from everything that actually happened.
Like, she obviously hadn't watched the video.
Yeah, or didn't know. Or had watched it and wanted to lie, who knows. But, so in this situation, we don't exactly know what happened, but these protesters came out and they start shooting these flashbangs and smoke bombs at them. There was one story I saw this morning of it's like a van with 6 kids of a guy who wasn't even there at the protest, and 3 of his kids had to go to the hospital because they got all the smoke in their lungs. And I think that when people see that happening to their friends and neighbors, they rightly are repulsed and wanna show up. And so I think that's like part of what we're seeing happening is that it's just a reaction to this horrible action by the government. The only quibble I have with the representative who spoke in the last segment, who I thought she was wonderful and everything, and she said that they want to intimidate people and put them in their homes. And maybe some of them do, but I think they want to fight. Actually, and if you look at what happened last night, this idea that you shoot off, smoke bombs into a crowd, I think they want more of this. He wants to do the Insurrection Act. You saw it in the,
He told us.
Yeah, he told us.
We're
not reading between the lines. Like, they are instigating a fight. They want to escalate because they want to crack down harder. And that's why I think this is continuing now into whatever. Like, it's been a week since the killing of Renee Good.
But to what end?
Oh, I think the invocation. First of all, his choice of Minnesota is, I think, we should unpack it a little bit. He's always been obsessed.
There's psychological
There's a
play here.
distinctly racist goal here, right? Like, he's obsessed with the Somali community in Minnesota. He's obsessed with Ilhan Omar. And I think in part because Minnesota is thought of as a largely white state, and you have an influx of a bunch of brown people, which is the story of immigration tension all over this country, demographic change. He is seizing upon a story about fraud perpetrated perhaps in some part by the Somali community, and he's using that as an excuse to go full bore and create a war zone in residential neighborhoods. And this is a complete confection on the part of the Trump administration. Yep. There's an open question about what the fraud really entailed. There's no need to be patrolling these residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, but the ICE agents aren't even really trained in the weapons they carry. They're not forensic accountants.
They're not trained in the tactics you use to pull people over. Like, they don't. I talked to the LA, the police chief from the Los Angeles Police Department, who was there for years, and he was like, "That's just not. Those tactics are not what you employ. They're using banned chokeholds on 16-year-old American citizens in other parts of the country." The Minneapolis and St. Paul public schools are offering virtual learning until mid-February because people are terrified to send their children to school. This is so hugely disruptive. And I do think that's the point, right? On one level, he wants the people of Minneapolis, he wants a conflagration, he wants conflict. But he also wants to terrify every other major American city and say, you resist me, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to parachute into your residential neighborhoods. We're going to make your children scared to go to school, and we have complete authority to do it. You cannot file a civil lawsuit against a federal officer.
There's one other element just really quick about why Minnesota is what I thought you were going. So I just want to add. He wouldn't say it, but he wanted to crack down harder on George Floyd. There's like a psychological element. There's like a machismo where he felt like, initially, then he went and hid in the basement. He was like, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
It's in the PIAC.
Yeah, exactly. Then he went to hide. And there's a pride here. I think that Esper and maybe Milley and others basically talked him down from.
Stephen Miller down. It's been reported out. I think Michael Bender of the Wall Street Journal in his book reports it out that they told Stephen Miller to shut the bleep up and
exactly.
That you're right. That
so
was
now this is a second chance.
Comeuppance for the state of Minnesota,
Correct.
which is sick and so twisted.
What do you think about the fact that since Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed, more people have been in the street? I feel like I have a better sense of how the public is going to react to an authoritarian playbook than any of the elites who seem to be tripping over each other to capitulate to Donald Trump.
Yeah. And even Democratic Party, there's been a couple stories this week where Democratic Party leaders are like, got to be careful how we talk about ICE, and in this budget fight coming up, we don't want to make. It's like, what are you guys seeing out there? Because, and if you just look at the polls, and look, polls can be off a little bit. We've all been burned by them, but it's not. These aren't close. It's not like it's a close call. Right. And the amount of people who are on the side of the officer in the Renee Good killing is 25 to 30% in various polls. The number of people who have a positive view of ICE right now is 30%. Mm-hmm. And this is huge drops.
Right, 30% swing in what people think of ICE.
Yeah, since last November. People are upset about this. And just, there is a concerningly significant, probably bare majority of the Republican Party that is signed up for. That's what they signed up for, right? They want the authoritarianism. They want to see blue-haired lesbians cry. That's what they're here for. They're here for the liberal tears. But a lot of the independent voters, the people we talk about, the manosphere, the comedians, the "Don't Tread on Me" people. There's still some people who have the "Don't Tread on Me" flag that was I meant that. Maybe not all of the people, but some percentage of them. And I think regular, like the guy in the intro video, regular people who just sit around and watch football, they're no, this is not American. Masked people, women, and children.
It's also not conservative. I mean,
right.
Republicans used to think that the states should have a say.
Jack
government closest to the people governs the best. How many times do we say that?
Insane.
Don't let the federal government get involved in local school board decisions. Right? This was
what happened to all that. Am I dating myself?
No, add it to the list of things they threw in the trash.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is exactly what the right was afraid the left was going to do. Jackbooted thugs coming in black military helicopters to go seize American citizens. And well, hello, that's what's happening right now.
Jade Helm, were you covering this?
No, they used to call them white tinfoil hats if you thought that could happen, and now they're doing it and covering it for it. It is amazing to hear the way people are responding for their neighbors, though, and I think that there is something out there. If you sort of follow the people seem to be the ones with the brightest lights right now in terms of what we all cover every day.
Well, and that's why I think you're seeing the reaction. I mean, I think the people show the leaders the bravery that they need to summon. I mean, I genuinely, I'm not trying to connect too many apples to oranges, but Jerome Powell coming out with a video on Sunday, I think is the culmination of people looking out and saying, hey, you know what? I don't need to wait for the great herd to come with me to protest this movement. I can be brave on my own. I can stand up to this guy, punch the bully in the nose.
Right. And I think some of it has its genesis in the late fall from the Epstein survivors who had their courage is contagious and really brought along bipartisan coalitions.